Happy Tuesday to you guys, and happy, well, you can tell I forgot about it, St. Patrick's Day. There's nothing green on me. I don't even have any cash in my pocket, but happy St. Patrick's Day to you guys out there. Okay, today I want to talk to you about, I told you I was going to spend this week talking about and answering questions that have been asked, a lot of questions, a lot of important questions. Now, I'm going to answer a question today that I've kind of touched on a little bit in the past, but I'm going to go into a little bit deeper, and I'm going to show you something kind of neat on this board here. And that question was this: Bryan, every time I read and every time I listen to my family or my friends or my veterinarians, or I hop online and read about dog training, I'm always told never to correct a dog, never to use any sort of negative reinforcement or aversive stimuli and so on and so forth. Instead, I'm supposed to adopt a ignore bad behaviors policy and reward good behaviors. Is that what I'm supposed to do? Wow. I get asked that question a lot. And many times my response will be this, because I'm a huge believer that life is the master teacher. Sometimes our fee can be pretty high, but for the most part, there's nothing like learning for yourself. So for many times I'll just tell them, well, if you have a question about it, best way to learn, go try it. See how that works out well for you. And invariably, they come back saying, Uncle, I give. And here's why. You own a dog in a human world. And because of that, you simply cannot ignore some behaviors. You can't ignore your dog trying to bite your guest. You can't ignore your dog yanking you down the street. You can't ignore your dog getting up on your kitchen counter, or like you saw in a previous video, turning on your stove and burning half your house down. You can't handle a dog that barks all day long because your neighbors want you evicted. I can keep this up all day long. There are simply behaviors that animals do and will do if left unchecked because they're dogs. And they have dog rules and dog instinct and dog internal mechanisms that guide their behavior. But problem is, they're a piece of a puzzle that's trying to be put into a puzzle in which they just don't fit all the way. So if you want to get that piece to fit, sometimes you got to force it a little bit. So even just owning a dog, outside of training, just owning a dog in the human world, you're probably going to find out that simply ignoring bad behaviors and only rewarding good behaviors, it's just not going to work. And I'm telling you this much. Anyone who gives you that advice, I'm telling you all day long, that's one of those do as I say, not as I do. If they tell you that's how they practice with their dog all the time, that's how they live with their dog, they're not telling you the truth. Because no one can. No one can. I've owned multiple dogs, and I've worked with tons of people, and no one's been able to get that thing done. But let's talk about training. Now, when it comes to training, again, like I've said in previous videos, ask yourself a question. Do I want it to be reliable? Do I want my dog to reliably respond to my command? Or do I not? That's the big question. Because if you want reliability, you have to introduce cost versus benefit. Dogs run everything. Humans run everything on either a very conscious level or a subconscious level through a cost versus benefit analysis. It's the absolute truth. Just look at the times we live in right now. So what's the cost of going outdoors and going to the store versus the benefit? We're all running through it. Animals do the same thing. So again, if you don't apply a cost, then your entire training is based upon the hope that the dog will assume a benefit always and only that benefit, and will only want that benefit versus any competing motivator that's out there in the world, and do exactly what you command it to do. But I also tell people that's why they're called commands. Now, here's the thing I want to show you about that, because again, obedience is required on the planet Earth. The planet Earth will put obedience on human beings, does it all the time. Animals put obedience on other animals. They require it. That's why nature came up with hierarchies, so that we did not solve every dispute with fang and claw. Instead, I'm going to put in a system for animals smart enough to know their place. That's why I also gave them the principle of resemblance. so that Papa Wolf doesn't fight his oldest son to the death, and Mama Wolf doesn't fight her oldest daughter to the death. Let's put something in place that will blunt aggression. So it's there. It's all around us. It surrounds us everywhere. Why we have governments. Why we have the head of the bridge club, for God's sake. Why we have dictators. Why we have all sorts of rules and boundaries. We're supposed to live within those. This is even how gravity works. So anytime I talk to people, I always try to tap into their sanity. What is reasonable? I love when people go, that makes absolute sense to me. So not only do I deal with this in the dog world, but I have a really good friend and a colleague who is a pediatric psychiatrist. And he deals with it all the time because, see, that's what parents are told nowadays. Oh, obedience is harsh. Making your kid do something could be harmful. You're not supposed to be a parent. You're supposed to be your child's best friend. So he deals with this and all the problems that are the byproduct of that kind of attitude. So here's something cool that he did, and I think you're going to like this. He designed a room and built it at his facility. So it looks kind of like the room I'm standing in right now, just a little bit larger. And there are 2 doors in this room. And in the middle of this room looks like an upside-down flea market. I kid you not. You got upside-down desks, legs sticking up, upside-down buckets. You have everything imaginable all in the middle of this room. So now he takes, there goes my lid. He takes these parents into the room one at a time. And he hooks them up with stress sensors. He can measure their blood pressure, their heart rate while they're in that room. And he walks them in this door here and he says, okay, this is an exercise I need you to do and it'll make sense to you once you finish it. But here's the deal. I'm going to step out of this room and lock this door behind me. You see that there's a door on the far end. When you hear me say go over the speaker, I want you to make your way through all of these obstacles and out that door. So, of course, he says many, many times. He gets the old, okay, whatever. I don't see the point behind this whole thing, but so what? I'll do whatever you ask me to do. So he steps out, locks the door, then turns off the lights. Yeah, it is pitch black dark. This room was designed to not allow any ambient light whatsoever. And then they hear go. Right then, every person he's ever tested, and these range into the thousands, immediate spike in their heart rate, blood pressure, yeah. Their physiological stress response has just been mobilized. And then they start to slowly make their way through the room, and of course they run into things, and they say words I'm not going to repeat on this video. They get really frustrated, but invariably, they all make their way to a wall. And once they find that wall, they will hug that wall and travel down that wall until they get out the door. So then he takes them back to his office and lets them settle down. And once they're settled down, their stress response is no longer mobilized. He says, you know what that wall represents? The thing that guided you through that darkness. The thing that guided you through those obstacles and safely saw you out the other door. You know what that wall represents? Structure. That's what it represents. Structure. He goes, and that's what your children need. Structure. They need something that will guide them through the darkness, guide them through obstacles, give them boundaries, give them predictive information, and let them affect the outcome from every situation. They must have that. Your dogs must have the same thing. You know, I love that poem by Patrick Lee in which he wrote on the leaning tree. When you have traveled to the edge of all the light that you have and you stare into the darkness beyond, you must believe that one of 2 things will happen. You will be provided with something solid to step upon, or you will be taught to fly. When you provide structure to your dog, You provide it with that something solid to step upon. You give it boundaries. You give it rules in my human world. And because you've learned that as a dog, you comply with those boundaries. You comply with those rules. Which then means, hey, I love you. I don't have to worry about you causing me angst, raising my blood pressure, making me think about wanting to get rid of you. Because that's what happens. That's the whole purpose of this 365-day journey, is so that dogs aren't rehomed, so dogs aren't sent to rescues, into shelters, and eventually euthanized, so that you enjoy your dog. And the only way that's going to happen, if the two of you come up with rules of engagement. And there's nothing inhumane about it, nothing cruel. In fact, here's what's inhumane and here's what's cruel. Not giving your dog structure, not giving it any rules, not giving it predictive information, not giving it the ability to affect the outcomes of anything that you give it to do, anything that you command it to do, anything in its environment. That's cruel. That's inhumane. And let them wander out into the street because they're living in a mechanized human world and they get hit by a car. Because you heard that, wow, my dog's going away from me, but I'm supposed to ignore that bad behavior. Well, you ignored it and a car hit the dog. So again, hey, life is the master teacher. You can go try that, see how it works out for you. But just do me a favor. Make sure that in your attempt of trying that you don't allow other people to get harmed by your dog. Keep it in your own household. And then you'll learn through your own self-discovery that, wow, it doesn't work. So again, I used it to train Captain to do dog tricks because I didn't care if he did them or not. Yeah, it was embarrassing when I said, watch this. I tell my dog, give me a hug. Give me a hug. He's going to jump in my arms. So I go, give me a hug, and he doesn't. Yeah, it was a little embarrassing. I'm going, oh, well, maybe he's having an off day. But I really didn't care. This is all about having fun. But you know what? I knew I needed to be able to call him so he would have a better life, so I could let him off the leash and let him run. So I had to create a reliable come to me when called. I had to create a reliable stay so I could have company over. I could take him places with me. His life has been enhanced. My life has been enhanced. Why? Because I simply obeyed the rules. I gave him structure. I gave him a wall to follow, to guide him, predictive information and control. So guys, just think about that. If you found this information helpful, if I happen to just ring a little bit of that sanity bell, the old reason that we have, that we go, wow, that makes perfect sense, share it. Because trust me, there's a lot of stuff out there on the internet, and it's bad, and it's wrong, and it simply does not abide by nature's rules. We have to do that. That's our structure that we have as human beings. Be safe. Find something to smile about today. Provide that structure to your dog so you'll smile later. And I guess find something green to wear. That's what I need to do. If you found this helpful, share the video. I'll be seeing you guys tomorrow. Have a great day.